takes away liberty. Not only that, but liberty and private property are inseparable, in my opinion. And yet they're going to have to take away those who have healthcare. They're going to have to take away some of their private property, which is the fruits of their labor, which is their money. They're going to have to take away some of that, not to give to the general welfare, no. They're going to take some of that and redistribute it to those who don't have healthcare. So they're going to use your money, if you have healthcare, and give it to those who don't, which is a small segment of the population. That is your money. That is your money that you earn the fruits of your labor. That is your private property. And without private property, there is no liberty because the government has control. And this list goes on and on. In order for there to be any kind of nationalized government healthcare system, they will have to take away certain amounts of your liberty. And like I said earlier, it's a slippery slope. And we have a decision to make. Are we going to be this? Are we going to say, give me liberty unless I can get free healthcare? Or are we going to say, give me liberty or give me death? I don't care about free health care because I care about liberty. And in order for them to get, they're going to have to take away some of my liberty. Don't take away any of my liberty. Even if it makes me safer, even if it makes me healthier, this country is not about being the richest country. It's not about being the safest country. It's not about being the healthiest country, the biggest country. This country was founded on the idea of us being a free country, where the individual has the choice to take care of himself if he wants to, where the individual has a choice to live his own life how he pleases without anyone, especially the government and the federal government, getting in his way. He has a choice to live how he chooses, unless what he chooses hurts someone else. So I say this to you. This is how I'm going to end my point on the healthcare today. I hope that we can go back, we can read the founders, and we can look at what they really fought for, which was a limited government with specific powers enumerated in the Constitution, and they weren't supposed to, the federal government was not supposed to go beyond those powers, and in which we are a free society, and the individual makes choices in how he wants to live his own life. Where the individual has liberty. Give me liberty or give me death. There is no middle ground. There is no choices. I want liberty or I want death. It's not about peace, safety, strength. It's about liberty, and it's about freedom, which is worth the sacrifice of some of those other things. Even though liberty and freedom has been the engine for providing the most peaceful, strong, prosperous nation in the entire world. But it's not even about that. It's about liberty. Give me liberty. Liberty. Or give me death. Well, if you have any comments, you can make sure to email me at michael.yaffee@knights.ucf.edu. Or you can instant message me at Radio WNSC. I'm going to play another song here. When I get back, I'm going to talk about what happened today. And Obama passed something that has to do with medical marijuana. And it's something I actually agree with, which might surprise you since I've kind of usually have this campaign against legalizing marijuana on the show. But it's something I agree with, and there's a specific reason, and it kind of has to go with what I was talking about earlier. But, well, you'll just have to wait and find out. You're listening to the Michael Yaffee program, WNSC.UCF.edu, online radio. You are listening to the Michael Yaffee program, WNSC.UCF.edu, online radio. And man, there's just so much to cover. So there's a couple other things I wanted to cover, but I already told you guys that I'll cover this marijuana thing. And it's from another story I got from CBS News. Medical marijuana arrest guidelines eased. Obama administration to advise federal prosecutors not to pursue pot users, suppliers who abide by state law. The Obama administration will not seek to arrest medical marijuana users and suppliers as long as they conform to state laws under new policy guidelines to be set to federal prosecutors Monday. Two Justice Department officials described the new policy to the Associated Press, saying prosecutors will be told it is not a good use of their time to arrest people who use or provide medical marijuana in strict compliance with state laws. Now, usually, I've someone who disagrees with legalizing marijuana. I'm someone who disagrees in terms of just everybody. There's people that walk around UCF, legalize it, it doesn't hurt anybody. Well, I specifically laid on in this program before all of the damaging effects. And it's just as bad, if not worse, than cigarettes. And it's worse, really, because it affects your judgment like alcohol does. So it affects your health like cigarettes and your judgment like alcohol. But I'm for this because the federal government shouldn't be doing this anyways. If there are laws set by the states for medicinal marijuana, why is the federal government getting involved? Like I said before, there are specific enumerated powers given to the federal government. The rest is given to the states. If the states make laws, the federal government should not be able to step over them. So I actually agree with this because it's more about states' rights. It's more about the states having the power, which I believe they do. Now, my friend Jeff is listening out there, and he's been IMing me, and he's going to love this story. This is also from CBS News, and CBS News, it's just, the Associated Press, most of this stuff. It just happened to be the website I went to today. But here's the headline, Jeff. You ready? Scientists release new polar ice findings. Critics say flawed Catalan Arctic expedition couldn't produce reliable scientific results. Of course it couldn't. Last spring, the Catalan Arctic Survey members set out to walk and sometimes swim the just over 600 miles to the North Pole collecting data on sea ice. But almost immediately, their radar and sled loaded with water testing equipment failed. The team had to scale back its ambitions and measure ice thickness the old-fashioned way. In some places, they found it was barely 6 feet thick, half of what they expected. By May, the ice was on the move. One night, it was so violent the team had to break camp. Finally, plagued with frostbite and frozen sleeping bags, they gave up on only halfway to the pole. This week in London, Catalan released its results, fending off accusations that such a flawed expedition couldn't produce good science. But for scientists who rely on satellite and submarine data, Catalan says its measurement is unique. The scientists really have a lack of what you might call relatively accurate absolute measurements, what they would call direct observations made from the surface at the surface down through the snow, ice cover, and ice layer below, said expedition. Now, my friend Jeff said nice, but it's really not nice, and you'll see why. Eminent climate scientists agree that the data supports a growing consensus that the polar ice cap is in dramatic retreat. Hear that, Jeff? The conclusions from this work and from other measurements that have been done and from new models are that the summer ice will disappear within 20 to 30 years, and a lot of it will be gone within 10 years. Good news is that it will open up shipping lanes. Now, I read you this story because I want to do a little experiment with you. Now, this is supposed to give you a scare tactic that, well, if the polar ice caps are melting, the Arctic Ocean, which is ice, is melting, it's going to create flooding in the rest of the world. It's going to raise the sea levels. That's the big fear. That's a big fear we all have. It's going to create floods, rise the sea levels. Half of Florida will be gone. But I say this because I want you to do an experiment. Get a glass of water and put a bunch of ice in it. Fill it with ice and then fill it with water. Let it sit there in the sun. Okay. Now we're pretending that the Arctic ice really is shrinking, there is no real evidence that it is. It's very inconsistent. But that's a different story. We're going to pretend that it is. Now that cup of water I told you to get with the ice, let's pretend all the ice melted. Did the level of water in that, did it rise? Was the cup overflowing with water because all the ice melted? No. Draw a line. Jeff says to make sure to draw a line where the water level is. Okay, what's the next step, Jeff? Did I miss something? Really, the water level is not going to rise. So all of this fear that if the Arctic Ocean, let's say the whole thing sinks, all of that, all of it that's over water, it's not going to raise the sea level. It's just how it works. So all of this fear tactics, that if our North Pole ice cap melts, that it's going to rise the sea levels, doesn't make sense.